We ranked the best point guard from every team, and there's going to be videos for all of the other positions, so that brings us to shooting guard. Same rules apply as last video, so let's start with number 30, the New Jersey Brooklyn Nets with Drazen Petrovic. In his time with the Nets, Petrovic was one of the best shooters in the entire NBA in the early 90s, and he was slowly growing into an all-around great player too. But he only got to play 3 seasons for the Nets before passing away in a car crash at only 28 years old. There's no real competition for this spot either, besides Joe Johnson and Vince Carter, who's gonna be appearing later. Number 29, the Cleveland Cavaliers with Austin Carr. Carr was a solid player for the Cavs in the 70s, averaging 15, 3, and 3 for his 9 years there, but not too much competition for this spot either, besides World B. Free and J.R. Smith. Number 28, the Seattle Supersonics, or OKC Thunder, with Fred Brown. Of course, James Harden or Ray Allen should have this spot, but again, they'll be mentioned later. So it goes to Fred Brown, who was described by his coach as instant offense. He played with the Sonics for 13 seasons and was a one-time All-Star. Number 27, the Pelicans/Hornets with Drew Holiday. Drew played point guard for all of his career up until this past season. So I almost gave the spot to Eric Gordon, but he was injured for most of his 5 years in New Orleans, and they were mostly a bad team while he played there. So with how big Drew came up in the regular season and in the playoffs this past year, we had to give it to him. Number 26, the Charlotte Hornets with Del Curry. Del was a 6-man for the Hornets for 10 seasons in the 90s. He barely ever started a game, but he was one of the best 3-point shooters in the league. In his best season, he averaged 16 points a game and won the 6th Man of the Year award. He brought Charlotte instant offense and was their all-time leading scorer up until last season. Number 25, the Memphis Grizzlies with Tony Allen. Alright, the Grizzlies have not had too many great players in their short history, including at the shooting guard position. The only other competition for the spot was Mike Miller, who had some of his best years in Memphis, but Allen takes it for being one of the best defenders in the entire league, a 3-time member of the All-Defensive First Team, and according to Kobe, the best defender he's ever played against. Number 24, the Dallas Mavericks with Michael Finley. Finley was a part of the 90s Mavs team of himself, Dirk Nowitzki, and Steve Nash that made some decent runs into the playoffs. And on top of that, in his 9 years in Dallas, Michael Finley averaged 25 and 5 and was a 2-time All-Star. And he was a great two-way player that excelled on both ends of the court. Number 23, the Phoenix Suns with Devin Booker. Devin Big Money Booker. He's got some of the biggest potential in the NBA right now, and even though this list isn't based on potential, he still earned the spot. Because the man averaged almost 25 points a game this past season, and he's getting better every year. I mean, not just any old average player can go and drop 70. Because only NBA greats like Wilt Chamberlain, Kobe Bryant, David Thompson, and Elgin Baylor have ever scored 70 points in a game. So Booker doesn't have much competition for this spot, beating out Paul Westphal and Dan Marley. 22, the New York Knicks with John Starks. Starks was an undrafted rookie that didn't look like he was going to make it in the league until he ended up on the Knicks by luck and eventually turned into their starting point guard. In his best season, he averaged 19, 5, and 3 and became most famous for being a one-time NBA All-Star, winning the 1997 6th Man of the Year award, and dunking on Horace Grant and almost on Michael Jordan. Number 21, the Minnesota Timberwolves with Jimmy Butler. Yes, Butler's only played 1 season there so far, but he's really got no competition. He's one of the league's best two-way players and has been an All-Star every year since 2014. Before the Wolves traded for Butler, they looked like a great young team. But once they made that trade, they instantly really looked like they were ready for the playoffs. And they were. Number 20. The Los Angeles Clippers with World B. Free. World B. Free will always be remembered for his flashy style of play and his rainbow jump shot. He only played 2 seasons for the Clippers, but that's where he had his best 2 seasons in the NBA, where he averaged 29 points and 30 points a game. But the team did fail to make the playoffs both of those seasons, which does hurt his case a little bit. Number 19, the Washington Wizards with Earl Monroe. Hopefully one day this spot will go to Bradley Beal, but for now it goes to Monroe. He played for the Wizards in the late 60s and early 70s, and he was a great player. In his 4 seasons there, he won the Rookie of the Year award, made the All-Star team twice, and even made the All-NBA first team in his second year in the league for averaging 25 points, 5 assists, and 3 rebounds a game. Number 18, the Atlanta Hawks with Joe Johnson. Joe was becoming a good player in Phoenix, but it wasn't until he moved to the Hawks where he became a great player and a 6-time All-Star, and took Atlanta from being a bad team to a playoff team right away. While he was there, he was one of the NBA's best clutch players, could shoot from mid-range and the 3, and put up all-around great numbers. Number 17, the Sacramento Kings with Mitch Richmond. Richmond was one of the Kings' all-time great scorers and has been described as one of basketball's all-time best pure shooters. When he was there, he averaged 23, 4, and 4 and was a 6-time All-Star. But the Kings could never get him a team that could help them to a winning season. Man, they got a history of that. But that led to Mitch Richmond and that Kings team only making it to the playoffs once in his 7 years there. Number 16, the Denver Nuggets with David Thompson. Thompson was a guy that Michael Jordan actually said he looked up to while he was growing up. He was a great scorer and an even better dunker and could do a little bit of everything on both ends of the court, and he even invented the alley-oop in college. Then, in his early career in Denver, he did a great job at living up to the hype that he set for himself at NC State. While he was on the Nuggets, he was a 3-time All-Star, made the All-NBA first team twice, and he beats out J.R. Smith and Allen Iverson for the spot, who's going to be mentioned later. Number 15, the Golden State Warriors with Klay Thompson. Alright, so now we got back-to-back Thompsons. Klay's one of the league's best two-way players, one of the top 2 or 3 spot-up shooters in league history, and will definitely go down as an all-time great shooting guard when he retires. I wanted to rank him higher, but we really haven't gotten to see his true potential, because he's always been the 2nd or 3rd option on the Warriors, and might even be the 4th option this next season. He's just now entering his prime, and in the past few years has only gotten better, but we really don't know if he belongs in the spot of being a supporting player, or if he actually has the ability to be the guy and carry a team on his own. Number 14, the Utah Jazz with Pete Maravich. Pistol Pete is without a doubt the Jazz's best shooting guard, beating out Donovan Mitchell. He played most of his short career in Utah and put up insane numbers. He could make the flashy passes, score inside over anyone, and shoot from deep. He was known around the league for shooting long-range shots, but there wasn't even a 3-point line back then until the very end of his career. So the fact that he averaged 24 points a game for his career and 31 a game in his best season without a 3-point line makes it even that much more insane. And after the 3-point line was actually put in, Pistol Pete only managed to shoot 15 3-pointers, but he made 10 of them, which is 66%. And of course that wasn't his true percentage, but it gives us a small taste of the kind of shooter he really was. But because of all of his injuries and the fact that he didn't have a chance in the playoffs because he played on an expansion team, drops him down on the list. Number 13, the Milwaukee Bucks with Sidney Moncrief. Now, for some reason I did put Moncrief as the Bucks' all-time greatest point guard, even though he's actually a shooting guard. So we'll give it to him in this video, and for greatest Bucks point guard we'll give it to Brandon Jennings, because Oscar Robertson and Sam Cassell already had their own spots on that list. But as for shooting guard, like I said in that video, Moncrief was great on offense and dominant on defense, with his weakness being 3-pointers. But besides that, Sidney Moncrief could really do anything you could ask of a shooting guard. Number 12, the Detroit Pistons with Joe Dumars. Dumars spent his entire career as a member of the Pistons, and most notably as a member of the Bad Boys team. Not only was he one of the Pistons' go-to options on offense that helped them to their 2 NBA championships, but he was a great defender that made the all-defensive first team 4 times. He didn't lack in any aspect of the game, and he definitely deserved his spot in the Hall of Fame. So Dumars beats out guys like Rip Hamilton and Jerry Stackhouse for this spot. Number 11, the Toronto Raptors with Vince Carter. Vince has played 20 seasons in the NBA, but he'll always be remembered for the 2000 dunk contest and being the Raptors' best and most exciting player in their history. His obvious competition for the spot is DeMar DeRozan, but even though Vince Carter played there for a shorter amount of time and didn't make the playoffs as often as DeRozan has, he was still the better shooter, the better scorer, and the better all-around player. Number 10, the Indiana Pacers with Reggie Miller. Reggie's mainly known for 3 things: scoring 8 points in 9 seconds, being an all-time great 3-point shooter, and an all-time great trash talker. He played his entire Hall of Fame career in Indiana, and even brought that team to the NBA Finals in 2000. Even though he was only a 5-time All-Star and never averaged over 24 points a game for a season, he was definitely a player that was built for the postseason, and his constant great play there and his historic 3-point shooting is a big part of what lands him this high on the list. His only real competition for the spot is Victor Oladipo, who's got the potential to maybe earn this spot one day, but for now it goes to Reggie Miller. Number 9, the Boston Celtics with Ray Allen. Ray Allen and Reggie Miller both look similar, both are all-time great 3-point shooters, and both are clutch players. But Ray Allen's the slightly better version. He played for the Bucks, Sonics, Celtics, and the Heat, and he was much more athletic and had far better statistical seasons on the Bucks and the Sonics, where he averaged over 26 points a game at one point, so I could have included him for those teams, but he had his real success in Boston. On that team, he took on more of a Klay Thompson role as their second or third option, but he still played a huge role in helping them win a championship. Number 8, the San Antonio Spurs with George Gervin. George the Iceman Gervin is an all-time great scorer, whether it was in the playoffs or the regular season. He was a 4-time scoring champion that averaged between 27 and 33 points a game in that 5-year span that he led the league in scoring. But on top of being one of the greatest scorers, he also led his Spurs team to winning seasons 8 of the 9 years he played there, and made the Western Conference Finals twice. Even though he never did lead the team to the NBA Finals, he's still an all-time great, beating out a guy like Manu Ginobili for this spot by a good margin. But maybe it would have been a closer race if Ginobili didn't come off the bench for his entire career. Number 7, the Orlando Magic with Tracy McGrady. After getting traded away from Vince Carter and the Raptors, McGrady would go on to have by far his best statistical seasons on the Magic. And that was when he really became a star in the league. He was an all-star every year he played there, and in his best season he averaged 32, 6, and 5, helping him finish 4th in MVP voting. He played just as good or even better in the playoffs, but still couldn't get very far because the Magic just couldn't put a quality team together to help him win. So he couldn't make it in the playoffs, but he ranks this high because in his time in Orlando he was in his prime, and they were personally his best years in the league, and most importantly before all of his injuries. Number 6, the Houston Rockets with James Harden. The only active player on this list to make it anywhere near the top 10. But I think Harden deserves it. He's now been a scoring leader, an assist leader, a 6th man of the year, and now the reigning MVP and the first league MVP on the list. He's proven he can do everything. Well, almost everything. But the man's slowly becoming one of the best scorers the NBA has ever seen, and I can definitely see him as a future NBA champion, but I don't want to put him any higher on the list because he's just now in the middle of his prime. Number 5, the Portland Trailblazers with Clyde Drexler. A lot of the time, Drexler gets overshadowed when looking back, since he was a great shooting guard that played at the same time as Michael Jordan with a similar style of play as him. But he's still the Blazers' all-time greatest player. He was athletic and he could score whenever he wanted, and he even helped the Blazers to the playoffs every year he played there, including helping them into the NBA Finals twice. In his best season there, he averaged 25 a game and finished 2nd in MVP voting, behind, you guessed it, Michael Jordan. I think Harden's a better scorer than Clyde Drexler, but Drexler ranks higher for now for being the all-around better player. Number 4, the Philadelphia 76ers with Allen Iverson. AA might have had his personal issues off the court, but on the court he's one of the all-time greats and deserved his spot in the Hall of Fame. Like George Gervin, AI was a 4-time scoring champion, averaging over 30 a game 5 times in his career. But he was a lot more than just a scorer, because in his time in Philly he also led the league in steals 3 times, was a league MVP, and pretty much single-handedly led the 76ers into the NBA Finals, all at only 6 feet tall. Number 3, the Miami Heat with Dwayne Wade. Alright, so now we know where this list is headed. There's not too much explanation needed for D Wade. He won 2 NBA championships with the help of LeBron and Bosh, but he put the Heat on his back and won one in 2006, being the guy on that team. He was never a regular season MVP, but he did average 37 and 5 in his best season, and consistently brought a winning culture to the Miami Heat. His ability to do a little bit of everything and lead his team to a championship puts him this high on the list. Number 2, the Los Angeles Lakers with Kobe Bryant. Alright, nothing needs to be said here. There's really not an argument to have Kobe in a lower or higher than number 2 on the list. Number 1, the Chicago Bulls with Michael Jordan. Jordan's the GOAT. Make sure to like, comment, and don't forget to subscribe so you don't miss the rankings for all the other positions. If you haven't seen the point guard video, make sure to go check that out, and I'll catch you next video.